Welcome back to another episode of Max and Vitamin J Review the Monday Night Wars. We'd like to thank everyone who has watched with us along the way so far. We just got done reviewing January, and now we're about to go into February of 1996. And I know I told people that it was going to get better in 1996, and it will. We just got to get through a few months, and then we'll get there. Yeah. So please stick with us. We are going to get the NWO this year. We're going to get to start the Stone Cold Bret Hart feud this year. So we got a lot of things that are going to be developing, but we got some rough spots to get to. But we'll go into our first episode of February, and it will be on February 5th of 1996. And we'll start off with WCW. And of course, Pepe, his outfit of the week is Raggedy Ann. How delightful. And the first match for Nitro is going to be Chris Benoit versus Macho Man. And Macho Man has Woman and Miss Elizabeth by his side, and this is for the WCW Championship. I was a little surprised to see them throw Chris Benoit in here so quickly. I know he's with the Horsemen, and he's feuding with Flair. I thought if they were going to do that, maybe it would have been Arn Anderson, but it's good to see Chris Benoit get in there.
What did he do, though, to get that title match? Because he, lost to Guerrero, so...
And then he lost to one of the Japanese stars, I think, didn't he?
Okay, he's lost to Sasaki.
WCW a lot of times, and WWF too at times, put people in title matches. You're like, how do they get here? And actually, in this match, Chris Benoit dominated the Macho Man for a long stretch of this match.
Yeah. So there's a spot where Benoit flips Macho Man over top rope, and then Benoit sets up for a suicide dive. And Benoit, of course, as we know, loves to do that suicide dive. But he absolutely eats it on this guardrail because Savage moves out of the way as he's doing the dive. And it looks like his face smacks the bottom leg of the guardrail, and it looked absolutely brutal.
It looked very painful. I remember when I watched it, I texted you, and I said, Jacob, when you get this episode, look out for Benoit. It looks painful. It's so unnecessary, stuff he did.
Another unnecessary thing was the ending to the match. So Flair comes down to the ring, obviously to taunt the Macho Man. And then Macho Man comes to get him, but then he uses Miss Elizabeth to shield off Savage, because he's a big heel, so using a woman as a shield is quite cowardly. And then the woman does betray Savage and attack him from behind.
She just grabbed Macho Man from behind, and then Flair and Arn Anderson start beating him up.
Horseman attack him. Hogan comes out and hits Arn Anderson with a chair, as he's been doing the past few weeks. He's drilling everybody with chairs.
Now, when you say drilling is not an apt term.
You're right. Let's see, what term shall we use for a Hogan chair shot?
I said he hits Flair and Arn Anderson with some charming, soft chair shots. Right. Yeah, Hogan is got to be one of the worst chair shots, which he's safe. It's definitely safe. He ain't getting hurt.
And then Savage and Elizabeth check on Savage, obviously after the match at the DQ. They would really need to protect Benoit with a DQ finish here.
No, and of course, like we've been saying, a WCW title match on Nitro is going to end in DQ.
Doesn't matter where it's at. Main event, not main event.
So after this match, and we get an in-ring interview with Macho Man, but Gene's coming in the ring at the wrong time. Hulk Hogan says, Gene, not right now, because Macho Man is hurt, and we see him eventually be carried out to the ring. Hogan then tells Gene that he's going to put a stop to Flair, which the crowd boos. Again, like we told y'all, Hogan is very hit or miss with the crowds. But then while Hogan is talking, Flair comes back out. He has a sneak attack on Hogan, and he claws at Hogan's head, and it starts to bleed. Because remember, Hogan he got hit with the high heel the other week, and he has some cuts on his eyebrow. So Flair claws at that, and it starts to bleed. And then the Giant comes out and hits Hulk Hogan with a chair.
Zodiac comes out and once again stops the Giant from beating up Hulk Hogan. But commentary does pick up on the Zodiac calling off the Giant. They do keep mentioning that he has repeatedly called the Giant off and wondered about it, so they must have been finally setting that in motion. And then Savage does ask Elizabeth why she didn't warn Hogan about the blind side. I mean, Gene then says that she tried, but I don't think she really tried.
We'll see. I wonder if he's up to something.
Miss Elizabeth? Nah.
Let's go ahead and move on to the Raw side. And the first match we have today is Yokozuna and British Bulldog versus the two dudes with attitude, Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Diesel and Shawn Michaels were so cool that they play rock, paper, scissors to see who gets in the ring first.
Commentary also mentions that the two dudes with attitude have never been beaten as a tag team. So yeah, actually, technically, they were actually correct. Diesel and Shawn Michaels had not been beaten as a tag team up to that point. They do get beaten on the house show in March of '96, but before that, they had not been beaten as a team.
Very impressive. But the crowd is into Shawn Michaels and Diesel. There's a loud Davey Boy Sucks chant.
As much as we rag on how much we haven't liked the presentation of Shawn Michaels, I mean, fans are going nuts for him.
Mm-hmm. And I would say Bulldog's got some good heat in this match.
I do like the part where Diesel and HBK, they're like flex to the crowd, and Bulldog, of course, is like, you know, he's like, if anyone's gonna flex, it's gonna be me, so that he gets on turnbuckle and then flexes.
I do have that as well. I said the only one in the ring not posing is Yokozuna.
He ain't got nothing to pose.
But with a Camp Cornette match, you're going to get one of them missing a move and hitting the other one. Bulldog at one point goes to break up a pin that Shawn Michaels has on Yokozuna, but Michaels moves out the way, and the Bulldog hits Yokozuna. Diesel then dumps Bulldog out of the ring, and then Shawn Michaels hits Sweet Chin music on Yokozuna, who falls out of the ring, and they lose by countout because they cannot lift Yokozuna back in the ring.
I thought that was pretty comical.
Yeah.
Vince was saying he was pushing 600 bills at that point.
Yeah, and that's dead weight.
Yeah.
And then after the match, we see Cornette yelling at Yokozuna because, you know, he's blaming Yokozuna for them losing. And Vince says something that won't play well to the crowd of today. Yeah, he says Cornette is verbally blanking Yokozuna. You can fill in the blanks. And keeps poking at Yokozuna, and then eventually Yokozuna's had enough, and then he shoves Cornette down and punches him. And Bulldog and Owen Hart are like, hey, you can't do that to our manager. And then they start jumping on Yokozuna. But this is a face turn, baby. So Yokozuna then eventually gets the advantage on both of those guys, and he gets them both out of the ring, and then he shouts to the crowd to a good applause. They seem to really like the idea.
The crowd's quite happy to see it. I love anytime Jim Cornette is attacked, because the way he sells getting attacked is so funny.
Yeah, he just flails.
He just flails around. It's hilarious. Love Jim Cornette.
So that's a fun segment. Good face turn for Yokozuna. I'm a bit disappointed they didn't get much out of it, but I did like it. I thought they could have had. They had potential.
I honestly wonder how long Yokozuna is even like gonna be around. I don't remember him being there in like '97. I think he was gone at that point.
Face turn Yokozuna, I thought had a lot of potential, but things happen. But after the match, we do get a vignette for another pivotal Attitude Era character, and it's from Mankind, and he says he's finally found a home.
These Mankind videos are so good. I much prefer heel Mankind to face, but face is good too. But yeah, so both the opening matches for WCW and Monday Night Nitro do not have a clean finish, so I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that was straight copycat, no doubt about it. But let's go ahead and move on to the second match for Nitro, and it is the Taskmaster and Hugh Morris, get it, with Jimmy Hart versus Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman. And during the match, Pillman shows more of that loose cannon streak. He shoves a cameraman, and Bischoff still continues to sell that, hey, this guy, he's crazy. He might not be here for long. But eventually, Arn Anderson and Taskmaster are battling outside the ring, and Arn goes to power drive the Taskmaster, but someone reaches from behind the curtain. They fight all the way back to in the entranceway, and someone cracks Anderson with a broom, which takes him out. Taskmaster comes back to the ring with a belt, and the ref calls for DQ. So this is the second straight non-finish. Hugh Morris then hits his finisher, No Laughing Matter, and then Sullivan whips Brian Pillman with the belt. So then we'll move on to the second match for WWF. It is Hakushi versus the 1-2-3 Kid with Ted DiBiase. A 1-2-3 Kid comes out carrying a baby bottle. We're getting into revealing that this match is going to be a crybaby match. It sounds just as bad as you think it does.
Yep.
Throughout the match, the Kid does get a lot of good heat. He does a lot of his dumb-looking karate poses, and the crowd just boos him every time he does it. And 1-2-3 Kid wins with, I have it as a top rope maneuver. Apparently, I didn't know what the hell it was. And then after that, we have a Jim Cornette interview where we see Cornette and Clarence Mason complaining about Gorilla Monsoon's suspension of Vader. And Mason says they will sue Monsoon if Vader isn't reinstated.
Immediately.
And then Gorilla Monsoon.
I wish WWE did more stuff like another lawyer character like Clarence Mason. I know they had like David Otunga for a bit, but that, because it seems like that'd be a great heel heat, is to get someone who always just weasels their way into stuff like Clarence Mason always managed to do. But it's gotta be the right person.
So then we also have a Gorilla Monsoon video where he talks about the injuries he suffered from Vader, and he apologizes to the fans for his actions against Vader, saying he acted as a wrestler and not a president. He thanks the fans for their letters and well wishes, and then he says, as for Vader being reinstated, that is up to the board and not him. And he closes with saying that he thinks Roddy Piper will be a good interim president until he returns. So that's that. We'll go to WCW has 2 more matches left, and WWF only has 1 more. So we'll go to the third match of Nitro, and that was Marcus Bagwell versus Ric Flair with a woman. And when Flair comes out, we see Paul Orndorff walking behind him, and Paul Orndorff then goes to the announcer's table, and he says, "The thing about Payback is you never know when it's going to happen." Then he leaves.
I don't remember if he ever gets that payback. We'll have to find out. Maybe they were building up to something, but once the NWO came along, they dropped it.
It could be. Ric Flair has some fierce chops on Bagwell in this match.
Yes, he does.
Also, during the match, Bischoff tells us that Hulk Hogan has been taken to the hospital, but Macho Man is on his way back to the arena. And there is a pretty bad botch in this match.
Oh, yeah, it's disgusting. So first of all, Bagwell at one point, he goes for one of the worst small packers I've ever seen. Then he gets up and Flair does the Irish whip, and then like Flair does like a shoulder tackle, and then Bagwell, who's running at him, then like turns around and then flips over the top rope, completely defying physics. It is a sight to see. I mean, you're definitely going to show it.
It looked like they're trying to do a double cross body, maybe.
But yeah, it seems but like Flair's not getting up for double crossbody at this point. Like he just turns around after it and then just falls out the ring. What the heck?
Yeah, he throws himself out the ring.
The more I keep seeing it, the worse it gets.
So Ric Flair wins the match with the figure 4, and he won't let go of the figure 4 leg lock after the match until Macho Man comes out, which then Ric Flair lets go and he books it as Macho Man chases after him.
First clean match of the day for WCW.
And that's funny because it's with the dirtiest player in the game, too. But this is just the start of the Macho Man Ric Flair feud. We got so many more great moments between these two coming up. But then we'll go to the main event for Nitro, and it was the Road Warriors versus Sting and Lex Luger for the WCW Tag Team titles. This crowd likes both teams, the loud LOD chant during the match, but both these teams are pretty over with the crowd, so that's always fun to see when everyone in the ring is well liked. But we also continue the theme of Lex Luger doing whatever it takes to win, and Sting wanting to win by playing by the rules, because at one point, Animal is going to run to the ropes, but Luger pulls down the top rope, which makes Animal fall out the ring, and then Sting looks at him upset that he did that. And a bit later, partway through the match, we get a message on the screen that said apparently they had some technical difficulties, and they're presenting the match in the most complete form as possible. And so what happened apparently was the entire building had a blackout, and Bischoff on air does make a quip that he believes is the WWF. I don't think he says WWF quite explicitly, but he pretty much insinuates it's them, and I believe WWF then issued a cease and desist on him, so he apologizes next week for saying that. For the parts we did see, eventually Jimmy Hart comes out. Remember, Sting doesn't want Luger to be with Jimmy Hart, and Luger has obliged him when they're tag teaming together that he won't bring Jimmy Hart out, so not good that he's coming out, but Animal shoves him down when he gets on the apron, but Jimmy Hart, quotations, dropped something on the apron, and Luger picks it up and hits Animal in the back, and it looks like a board. I don't know. I can't remember if they said exactly what it was. It looks like a wooden board. After Luger hits him with it, he pins him for the win. So Sting and Lex Luger do win this match, and Luger is ecstatic that they won.
Yeah, dude, it's like he won the title at Mania.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny just seeing him compared to Sting, who doesn't look quite as happy they won that way. So to end Nitro, we get Hot. They're in the ring. They get interviewed by Mean Gene. He says they demand a winner of the tag team title match at SuperBrawl. Gene asks him about his back because he just returned from a back injury. Animal says his back is fine and nobody can beat the Legion of Doom fair and square. And if they have to beat everyone to get the Luger and Sting, they will. And then Hawk says it's going to get extreme and Sting and Luger will pay the price. And so for the main event in WWF, we have Undertaker versus Bret Hart for the WWF title. And Bret Hart walks out. He's a little bit of a black eye. And then Undertaker comes out without the mask. So remember during Bret Hart versus Undertaker, he gets the mask knocked off, and now we're officially done with it. No more mask. So during the match, Diesel walks out, and the Undertaker notices him, and the distraction allows Bret Hart to get back into the match because Undertaker was dominating the beginning portion of the match. And Diesel goes to walk towards the announce table, and he says he came down there because he was told he would get a pay increase if he did commentary.
I thought that was funny.
That's natural. You're always thinking about the money. Yeah. And then later on, Bret Hart goes to slam Undertaker's leg onto the ring post, but Diesel attacks Bret Hart and pushes him into the ring post. Undertaker then goes after Diesel and throws him to the stairs. After Undertaker throws Diesel into the stairs, he then turns his attention back to Bret Hart, but Diesel takes this opportunity to get a chair and hit Undertaker in the back. And the ref is still down from an earlier spot where Undertaker tried to tombstone Bret Hart, and Bret Hart's leg hit the ref. Diesel then hits the jackknife on the Undertaker 2 times as we go to commercial.
I thought it was interesting that they did the jackknives and then commercial.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
I mean, it definitely keeps you interested. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, you're like, I gotta see what happens next.
Gotta see what happens. Got to.
After the commercial, we see Bret Hart and Diesel as they're broken up by officials and producers. Vince says the match has been ruled a draw.
Boo.
Yeah. And then Raw ends with the second part of Billionaire Ted's press conference, where they make fun of Ted Turner for being power hungry, money hungry, and doesn't care if he's wasting stockholder money. And then Vince ends the show with showing an ad that the WWF will be taking out in the newspaper. But that is how Raw ends.
I gave it to the WWF this week because it did set up a lot of storyline here. Now I don't like that the main event didn't have a winner. It does set up stuff quite nice on Undertaker and Diesel. I don't like how we had 2 straight matches that went to a DQ and yet another WCW World Heavyweight title match with the DQ. The only really good thing on this end of the show was the main event.
Yeah, I think I'd go WWF on that too. Even though it didn't really go anywhere in the grand scheme of things, I really liked Yokozuna's face turn. And the main event, even though it ended in a draw, was still interesting, like you said, because it moved forward with a couple storylines. So I think as a whole, WWF did a little bit better.
The people said Nitro won 2.9 to 2.7. So
we just don't agree with the people a lot.
No, we don't rock with the people.
All right, so next what we have is SuperBrawl. Made it on February 11th of 1996. The first match is Public Enemy versus the Nasty Boys. I believe this was the beginning of their feud. They wrestled quite a few times, and I got to tell you, I don't think I cared about a single one of the matchups.
I don't care for the Nasty Boys, and Public Enemy probably even less. Well, no, I think I might like Public Enemy more than the Nasty Boys. I think the Nasty Boys are better wrestlers, but I just don't care for the Nasty Boys. Sorry.
Yeah. The Nasty Boys win. They win because Rocker Rock goes for a dive from the stage and misses, and he goes through a table. He does that quite a bit, going through tables.
Naturally.
Yep, as you do. And then Knobs pins him for the win. So that's that.
But then next we have Gene interview with Conan, and Conan is sporting the United States title. When the heck did that happen?
Before you get to Conan, though, Gene has the hotline thing. Oh, yeah. He says he has news on 2 former WWF champions who could be coming to WCW, and that it might even be a surprise to the WWF. And I was thinking, was he really talking about Scott Hall and Kevin Nash already? I'm surprised they would let the...
He didn't say world champion, so it could be talking about Continental champion for Razor. I kind of wonder.
It's shocking they would hint at that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else jumped. I mean, a lot of people jumped. Yeah, no, it's got to be them, honestly. But in February, I don't think Razor knew he was leaving, actually. I don't think he knew he was leaving in February.
Yeah. Which, I'm going to assume it's them because I can't think of who else it would be. I was surprised they would let it go or give a hint at that so early. But I think in the end, it didn't matter because most people were shocked when it happened anyways. So the second match we got at SuperBrawl is Johnny B. Bad, who is the champion. He comes out with the Diamond Doll, and he's facing Diamond Dallas Page. For this match, Diamond Dallas Page's money is on the line, and for Johnny B. Bad, it's going to be the TV title and Diamond Doll. And for this one, DDP comes out with roses, and he's doing that again.
This is the 6th time we have seen Johnny B. Bad versus Diamond Dallas Page, and honestly, I'm not complaining.
Even when they got to this number, I still didn't feel like you do sometimes when you watch wrestling now. You're like, these two are wrestling again? Come on.
This is the one where if DDP loses, he also loses his money. $6 million?
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change.
Oh, we'll let that $6 million.
But throughout the match, DDP keeps asking Diamond Doll to give him a 10, but then Diamond Doll eventually does pick up a sign, but it says 0, not 10. She gave DDP a 0, and she came prepared with her own sign to do it. She knew she was going to do this. She also then gives Johnny B. Bad a 10, so DDP's not liking that.
But like after she gives him the zero, he like swipes at the card and then he gets rolled up. So he almost loses because he's distracted.
But so this is a good match. DDP does great character work in this one, and he's great at working the crowd, taunting them.
He does. Okay, so at one point DDP does eye poke Johnny Bad, and then he hits what looks like the Bro Derek Matt Riddle's finish.
Oh yeah,
that's interesting.
I forgot to mention that. Speaking of the move that other people do, Johnny Bad wins this match after hitting DDP with the tombstone.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I don't like it when people who aren't like tall giant characters do tombstones.
Yeah. Now, let's be honest. I'm really okay if Kane and Undertaker do it.
like I don't mind people doing pile drivers, but like tombstones, that just seems like it should be reserved for a certain tombstone. Like I don't know, Johnny Bad doing a tombstone, it's kind of odd.
The optics just don't work.
Yeah, not Johnny Bad.
But again, Johnny Bad wins, so Kimberly gets her money, and she's still Johnny Bad's manager. Another good match between the two. Like I said, they just don't mess.
We will not be seeing too much more of Johnny Bad.
Nope. And I think we're going to be without DDP for a few weeks too, because we're going to try to build him being down in the dumps. But after this, we do get an interview with Harlem Heat. They said they don't respect Sting and Lex Luger, and they're going to win the tag titles, because they are the future. During this promo, Booker T struggled on the mic. He stumbled a lot of his words, so he wasn't quite as polished as he is later on.
He called them sissified suckers, but he says they're going to win and be the tag team of 1996. I will say that does not end up being true.
But the next match we get is Harlem Heat versus Sting and Lex Luger. During the match, Bobby Heenan made me laugh because they panned the shots of the crowd, and Heenan sees a kid, and he says, "That's an ugly-looking kid."
They look good and ready, I guarantee you. Ugly-looking kid.
I was like, dang, Heenan. But during this match, Luger, he gets knocked out of the ring, and then he looks uninterested in going back in the ring, like he doesn't want to wrestle, because he just wants to preserve the titles, you know. But then Sting convinces him to get back in.
He wants all the things that come with being a champion, but he doesn't actually want to defend the belt.
Exactly.
I love that Sting takes control of the match, but once Booker T's like immobilized, then he asks Sting to tag him in.
When it's easy pickings.
Yeah.
This version of Luger is so good. Yeah. He's so good playing cocky.
I'm watching 93 Nitro now as well, and I'm also seeing a narcissist. And man, that is such a shame they pivoted off that as soon as Hogan left.
Yeah. Later on in the match, Booker T hits the scissors kick on Luger and goes for the pin, but he lets him up, saying that he isn't done with him yet. So they could have won the match, but they got a little cocky. But then later on, Animal comes out when Stevie Ray has Lex Luger up in a powerbomb, but Animal hits Stevie in the gut with a lead plate, or maybe the same board that Luger hit Animal with. It looked very weak, and it even took Stevie a second to even register that he was supposed to sell getting hit. Because of that, Luger pins Stevie for the win. And if you're asking why did Animal come out, and it's because earlier, remember, they said that they were going to be the one to beat Sting and Luger for the titles, not anyone else. They're going to get things done their way. So that's just LOD. But after the match, Mean Gene interviews Sting and Lex Luger. Luger says he held up his end of the bargain with Sting by saying they would become tag champions, and they are. Sting says he can't believe that they're tag team champions, and says he is with the program. So I guess he's okay with cheating now. The next match is the much anticipated U.S. title rematch between One Man Gang and Conan. The crowd is pretty dead during this match.
Did you notice that when they did Conan's entrance, obviously they do his name in the graphic, but they only put one N?
Yeah, I did, because I was like, I thought it was two N's. And I believe a couple of times with Mysterio, they spelled with an I.
I think the week before they spelled, or like the other time we saw Conan, I think they spelled it correctly, so I don't know why they dropped it in.
This was a longer match than I cared for the match to have been. Yeah. And there's no reason for the fans to get into this, because WCW has not made any effort to push either guy.
No, and they haven't made any effort to push this title either.
Definitely not.
One Man Gang misses an incredibly soft splash, and then Conan gets the sunset flip for the win.
After this, Mean Gene once again advertises that he has news on two former WWF superstars coming to WCW. Again, surprise. But after that, we get a backstage interview with the Legion of Doom. They come out and say they had no issues with Sting and Luger before, but now they do, and they would do anything to get the Sting and Luger, and they did. They tell Harlem Heat to get back in line if they have a problem with it, and I love when Hawk does this sort of stuff. He goes over how they are going to hurt Sting and Luger by detaching their retinas and I think tearing up some muscles, you know. And then he tells them that they don't know what they signed up for by agreeing to get into the ring with them.
Rewatching this has definitely made me like Hawk a lot more. I will still side with Animal as my preferred
So as I've gone on, like I've liked Hawk a lot more.
Hawk is definitely the promo guy.
But the next match we got is Kevin Sullivan with Jimmy Hart versus Brian Pillman in a I Respect You strap match.
The rule is obviously you tied together with a strap, but it's kind of like an I quit where you had to say I respect you to one of the other person. That's how you end the match.
But before they even can strap both of the men in, these two just go at it. And then Sullivan eventually punches Pillman in the face, and then Pillman goes straight for the microphone and gets back in the ring and says, I respect you, Booker Man, and then leaves.
And for you kids at home, he called him Booker Man because Kevin Sullivan was a booker for WCW at the time.
This was a huge deal, especially, maybe not to the casual crowd because they wouldn't know about it, but to what they call smarks, that definitely was a good conversation piece because you're like, holy crap, they broke the fourth wall, essentially.
Did you catch that he was flipping off the crowd and the camera actually caught it too? I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yep, I sure did.
WCW, they don't play that, so I thought it was interesting.
But again, this was just building into him just doing things that were so ridiculous that he got fired.
Yeah, this is an extremely famous moment in wrestling history.
Yeah.
A lot of people think Pillman did it without the other people knowing. I believe Bischoff said, no, that's not the case. I don't know if the Booker Man was part of it, but the whole him saying I respect you and leaving then Arn Anderson come out, Bischoff claims that was planned.
Okay, I was going to say, because I have notes in here that the online says that Arn Anderson was completely unaware, but I was like, I don't know if I believe that because Arn Anderson looks like he is totally prepared for everything that's about to happen.
They acted well. He said they were trying to make it seem as real as possible.
But because of that, Arn Anderson comes out looking confused. He comes out in like almost a golf-looking outfit.
90s white dad attire.
Yeah, but he's looking around like he doesn't know what's going on. Sullivan hits Arn with a strap, and then Arn, he takes his shirt off, get ready for business, and then he puts the strap around his arm. So then Arn Anderson and Taskmaster then have a strap match.
And they keep beating the straps, and Sullivan keeps asking Arn to say, I guess I respect you, but he won't. Then Arn Anderson tackles him down, and then he asks Sullivan, you say it. But Arn's like choking this man. Taskmaster or Sullivan then runs Arn into the ring post and then whips him some more. They just take turns whipping each other essentially. Ric Flair eventually comes down, and then Flair gets them in to call it the match. So there is no the match essentially didn't even happen.
Right, yeah. Flair comes in and breaks it up because remember a few weeks ago, the Horsemen and Dungeon and Doom were trying to say there's no reason we should be fighting, and so they're trying to get back on that good terms with each other. At one point, Flair did make me laugh because at one point he tells a fan saying that if he wanted to talk to him, he would take his wife and make a woman out of her.
Oh, God.
And then he also says tonight he would destroy Hulkamania and he would take the belt and Miss Elizabeth away from Randy Savage.
They basically are leaving, and then Sullivan, you can see he's mouthed to Arn Anderson. He says, what's wrong with him? Talking about Pillman. So that was also the setup, to make it seem as real as possible.
Oh, and before the Horsemen leave, Arn Anderson does say to get to Hogan and Savage, he would get in bed with the devil himself. But he always means business.
Yeah.
And then after that, we get an interview with the Giant and Jimmy Hart. Hart says he's going to make it real simple for Hogan. He tells Hogan he only has one eye and time is not on his side. He says Hulkamania is going to die. And then the Giant says today will be a day of reckoning and says he looked in the darkest reaches of his soul and all that is evil and bad is inside him and it's building like a volcano that is going to erupt tonight all over Hogan in the cage. Phrasing. And then he ends it with saying Hulkamania is dead forever.
I can't stand Giant's promos because it's just him yelling the whole time. It's kind of like early Charlotte Flair promo. She would just yell the whole time.
Yeah, Giant right now is an F on the mic. Then the next match we get is a WCW Tag Team title match between the Road Warriors and Sting and Luger. I thought it was kind of interesting that they kind of rewarded the Road Warriors for ruining the other tag team title match.
Yeah.
I guess no one is going to tell the Road Warriors no, and I can't blame them.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell Hawk no.
When he's talking about detaching retinas and ripping out spleens. But during this match, you thought Luger was hesitant in the last match.
He doesn't want to fight the Road Warriors.
Luger clearly does not want to be there. And before the match even starts, he starts walking back towards the entranceway. But Sting chases after Luger, and he convinces him to come back. And then Luger does this like 2 more times. And then he even tells the ref to tell the Road Warriors to take off the shoulder pads because he's worried about the spikes.
You gotta be worried about it.
Luger's just wise, Jacob. He knows what's happening. So after we get done with the stalling, Sting gets worked over for a while by the Road Warriors. We're kind of building to see what happens when Sting tags Luger in. He eventually does tag Luger in, And he actually does wrestle. I thought he was going to leave again.
Well, no, he reluctantly gets in the ring. Animal's like staring at him, which is like causing him not to want to get in.
They do a spot where Sting accidentally low blows Animal. So we're starting to say, hey, is Sting starting to adopt Luger's philosophy?
Yep, that dirty Sting.
And then at one point, Stinger does go for the Scorpion Deathlock, but Hawk clotheslines Sting. And the announcers ask, what is Luger doing, not stopping Hawk from doing that? Could have the match won. I believe Luger's on the apron and he doesn't do anything.
So.
But eventually, the men start brawling outside and it ends in a double count out. Lame finish.
Yeah, I'm so sick of these no finishes.
I enjoyed this match for what it was. I love the Luger work on it. Now, most people, if you don't watch these consecutively in a row, if you went to just watch this episode, that would probably be a little boring. But if you see what they're trying to do, it's kind of funny to see Luger do that. So after that, we have a backstage interview with Ric Flair and Woman. Woman says what woman wants, woman gets. Flair says Hogan's master plan has failed.
Flair basically said that Hogan attempted to turn Taskmaster against Arn and he failed. And Flair will go to the cage and he knows that Savage is scared of Flair. Flair then goes on and say that blood, sweat, and tears and a world title change are coming.
And he says after the match he will have Woman and Miss Elizabeth on his side and he won't be telling anybody who he will be with tonight. Good old Nature Boy.
Mean Gene then does an interview with Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage and says that the Mega Powers will get her once again. I was groaned when he said that because I was like, oh God, please no. And that Flair has no idea what's going to happen in the cage match, but Savage knows what's going to happen. Savage says he wants to bring it to another level because family is involved. Obviously, Miss Elizabeth.
One thing I thought was interesting Macho Man said was that to expect the unexpected tonight, and boy, was he right.
He had a premonition, but he didn't see the full message, I guess.
Another funny thing Flair did before the match was right before the match starts, but he gets on the mic and he tells Elizabeth that before he sends Savage home in a basket, she better come to him and kiss a real man. And then Miss Elizabeth walks away, and then Flair asks, is that a no?
Savage gets on the mic, then says, oh no, and then he just goes back in the cage, and then Flair comes in, so I thought that was interesting. So Savage's retort was just, oh no.
And if you're asking why the WCW title is not last, well, I think you already know the answer.
Certain brother is in the main event.
Again, like we mentioned, we get to see Ric Flair's hiney again. Ric Flair loves that. Very proud of his derriere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's one point in the match, Savage goes for a pin. He gets a 2 count, but the bell rings.
But they keep screwing up this bell, dude.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if that was accident or not. But Ric Flair low blows Macho Man, of course, and that allows him to regain control over the match. A woman at one point gets some powder from her dress and throws it at Macho Man. And it looks like she misses, but Savage sells it.
And shoot a Flair. The old high heel, just like Woman did.
But yes, Miss Elizabeth did betray the Macho Man.
I wonder if fans were genuinely surprised when that happened.
I don't think she's ever been against Macho Man at this point on TV. Remember a few weeks ago, Macho Man brought all those ladies out, and it had Woman and Miss Elizabeth, and then they get betrayed by 2 of them. So they just made some poor decisions.
Yeah. Flair just knows how to get the people. Flair then proceeds to grace Savage, hit Savage in the head with the shoe, and then he pins him for the win. So we have a quick title change. Savage didn't hold the belt long. I think it was like less than 3 weeks.
But Ric Flair and Macho Man are kind of hot potatoing the title right now.
Yeah. Savage is now, since we've seen him gotten the title twice, this is Flair's second time with the title that we have seen during our rewatch.
But after the match, Hogan comes out and chases Woman and Miss Elizabeth away. Hogan has a bandage over his eye, and he comes into the ring and hits Arn Anderson with a chair as Macho Man is helped to the back. And then, of course, Mean Gene gets to the bottom of this. Hogan tells Flair he's the dirtiest player, and he says the last thing he saw was Miss Elizabeth stabbing Macho Man in the back. It was more the eye, but...
Yeah, I know, right?
Either way. And he says, as far as he's concerned, it was Miss Elizabeth who stabbed Macho Man in the eye. I mean, fair point, I guess.
Yeah.
But then Hogan starts to tape his fists, saying that his upcoming match is unsanctioned, and the only way to win is escape.
He was going to have Liz and Macho Man at his side during the cage match, but now he has no one. So it's only Hulk Hogan versus the Dungeon.
So, but it's the Giant and Taskmaster with Jimmy Hart versus Hulk Hogan cage match, unsanctioned, according to Hogan. During the match, Giant gets the bandage off of Hogan's eye, and of course Hogan's is just fraught with pain. And then the Giant does chokeslam Hogan. It looked like a really weak one. It's not the best looking chokeslam. After he gets chokeslammed, Hogan starts doing his Hulk up routine, and the Giant is shocked because this is the chokeslam. Nobody gets up from the chokeslam. Then Hogan starts ramming the Giant's head into the cage repeatedly, and the Giant gets busted open. And then Hogan hits the scoop slam on Giant, mimicking the under the giant scoop slam he did back at WrestleMania 3, I think it was. But during Hulk Hogan's Hulk routine, he hits the leg drop on Giant 3 times, but Hogan goes to escape, and the Giant gets up pretty quickly from all that, and he stops Hogan from escaping. Yeah, and then eventually they're battling on the ropes, trying to both, how they always do, 2 men standing, trying to get out of the cage. So Hogan eventually gets the Giant to fall down after some punches, and then Hogan escapes. And then right as Hogan touches outside, the Taskmaster hits Hogan with the title, but Hogan quickly grabs it and chases the Taskmaster into the ring, and out comes Ming and the other Dungeon of Doom members, who all have the honor of getting a chair shot from Hogan.
Hogan takes out all of Dungeon of Doom like they're scrubs with chair shots. They're walking in the chair shots. It's like roll your eyes about the amount of men that Hogan has just absolutely taken to the woodshed,
If you roll your eyes then, how bad are you going to do it now when the Loch Ness comes out and he starts trying to go after Hogan, but he is restrained from doing so we don't see them battle it out.
Did they think people really wanted to see Loch Ness versus Hulk Hogan? I kind of wonder if they were setting up for that, or if Loch Ness was kind of going the business for himself. Because I'm like, they can't seriously think that Loch Ness would draw anything.
Yeah, and in case anyone wants to know, Loch Ness is giant haystacks.
The show ends with Hogan posing. This was such a deflating ending to a pay-per-view.
Because it seemed at the time WCW was going in the right direction, and after this, I was like, the wind was taken out of it. I was like, dude, WCW is back in the shitter, dude. And it's just a terrible way to end the pay-per-view. You should have, the title match should have been, that would have been much better ending than this crap.
Yeah, but Hogan has to be the last one on.
And this pay-per-view was a major letdown.
Awful. This was a bad pay-per-view, honestly.
If I had to rate it out of 10, this would probably be like a 4, 5 maybe. I liked some things in it, but that ending was a major letdown. Holy smokes. Yeah. So that's the end of SuperBrawl. Next, we'll go to Monday, February 12th, 1996. There is no Raw this week because of the Westminster Dog Show. Dogs get top billing.
Natural.
So we will just talk about Nitro.
First match of the night is Savage versus Hugh Morris. Savage comes out without his jacket.
Because he is pissed. Yeah, he comes out to the ring like without any of his pizzazz, none of his glitz and glamour. He's all about business.
He is mad. Flair has rustled his jimmies.
Also announced, Jacob, that Baywatch episode they recorded all that while ago is coming out this week, they said.
Oh. The match was okay. He hits the elbow drop, taunts with the crowd, then goes and hits another elbow drop, and then that's the win. And then after the match, Savage goes up for another elbow drop, and Morris rolls out the ring. So then Savage gets on the mic and says he doesn't want Hugh Morris, he wants Flair.
He'll get his opportunity soon. Next is an interview with Steve Grissom. If you're asking who that is, he's the driver of the WCW car.
I had never heard of this guy.
Yeah, I Googled him too. The selling point was that Stane's going to be in his pit crew. Who cares? Moving on. Next, we get Scotty Riggs versus Loch Ness with Jimmy Hart. Riggs tries his hardest to get Loch Ness off his feet, but if you see Loch Ness, that is a hard task.
What do you think Loch Ness's build weight was?
550?
Yeah, no, his build weight is 685.
There's one point when Riggs jumps off the turnbuckle and Loch Ness was supposed to catch him, and he does not.
He does not at all. Then Loch Ness goes for an elbow drop, but then he stopped. What was happening with Loch Ness?
It was weird. And then I believe Bischoff called him jumping elbows. I'm like, you're stretching the definition of jump there, sir.
Yeah. So basically he hits 2 elbow drops and then that's it, and he pins him.
I mean, to be fair, 2 elbow drops from that man would.
2 elbow drops from a build 685-pound man. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. I wasn't mad that was the finish. I just don't know what he was doing when he started the elbow, stopped, and tossed her. I don't know what they were doing.
Next, we got a great segment.
I love it. Yeah, that's great.
It's a ramp interview with Woman and Miss Elizabeth. They come out with a hospital gurney and has a sheet over it. There is someone laying on the bed, but they have a sheet over their face. And Gene speaks to Elizabeth, and she says Macho Man is a man of his word when he said that somebody would end up on a gurney. And she says it took them all night, but Ric Flair is a man of his word too. Oh boy. Zinger.
And then Flair sits up from the gurney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's taking a cat nap because it's not easy being the nature boy. And then he loves saying this. He loves saying, I have woman on my right, Elizabeth to my left.
To my left.
And this is his 13th championship. Miss Elizabeth says she has something she wants to say. She says for 7 years she had to walk behind Randy and never open her mouth. When she left, she took half the money and the property. But last night she took it all, and she knew the belt was the most important thing to Randy. She tells Randy that he is not living on the edge, he is over the edge.
Got him.
But this segment made you really hate Ric Flair and Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm sure that he and Elizabeth was pretty intense.
And you really want to see Macho Man get his revenge too. This Flair is just superb.
The next match is Conan versus Devon Storm. Devon Storm will eventually turn into Crowbar. Yeah, Devon Storm is coming out in his BMX gear because I believe he was in a tag team with ECW, and they were like both biker dudes. So he comes out. Apparently, it was a United States title match. They didn't announce that. I don't think they announced it until I think it was during the match. I can't remember if they even announced it before that was the title match.
But Conan wins after Devon Storm goes for a top rope hurricanrana, but Conan reverses it to a top rope powerbomb for the win. Oh, and also George Steinbrenner was shown to be in the crowd. Thought that was interesting. And then for the main event, we have Arn Anderson, and he comes out with a woman, and he's facing Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan still comes out with the eye patch, but then during the match he takes it off, so I guess he didn't need it.
I know, right? It's like, okay, did you need it or not?
And then during the match, Ric Flair comes out with Miss Elizabeth, and they're arm in arm. And then Arn Anderson hits Hulk Hogan with a spine buster, and as usual, when Arn Anderson hits the spine buster on Hulk Hogan, Hogan gets right back up.
Per usual. Hogan does the Ric Flair strut after he does the big boot. He slaps the figure four on, and it's one of the worst applications of figure four I've ever seen.
Yeah, Hogan does the opposite of anybody I've ever seen.
And I think while he has that figure four on, woman is seen putting powder in her hand. She throws it in Hogan's face. And then Hogan, in full view of the ref, Arn hits Hogan with a boot.
Yeah, there's no way the ref missed it.
And pins him.
And it's a high heel boot, woman's boot. So after the match, Hogan gets up shortly and grabs both Arn and Flair, and he makes them headbutt each other, and then he hits the big boot to both men. Savage comes out, and he puts a beat down on Arn Anderson, and then he turns his attention to Flair, and he hits Flair with a chair, and then he puts Ric Flair back in the ring, and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man then take turns tag teaming Flair and hit him with a chair. This sends Ric Flair scurrying back to the announce team, and then Flair is unhinged. He's losing it. He's grabbing Bischoff's headset, and he tells Hogan that he just got his ass kicked. And he tells Macho Man that he has the belts and the girls. And he says he's got Hogan on a run, and they got the wrestling world right where they want him. Arn Anderson says he just beat the unbeatable Hulk Hogan, and he can do it again. Hulk Hogan and Macho Man then run to the announce table, and then Flair and Arn run away. And then Hogan grabs Heenan's headset and tells Arn and Flair to get back out here. But he tells Savage to beat Flair for the title and says he will accept Arn's challenge and face him next week. Hogan tells Elizabeth that she made a mistake and that Flair has Savage's XXXX, saying, Macho Man's moved on. Then Hogan also says he will be the new enforcer of the WCW. I'm like, stop. Savage then says they will take the enforcer and the Nature Boy and his entourage to school. And both Macho Man and Hulk Hogan say, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Awful.
Yeah, Hogan and Macho Man are not very good at this brief period.
WWF wishes they probably were going on this week because they would have probably had an easy win in our books.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, we know it was unopposed, so what was their rating for this week?
212 episode got a 3.7, so they got a 0.8 increase from last week. They got some of that raw audience for sure to come in.